Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to Alan's Day. Today, we're at our holiday home down near Jamestown, Tennessee. Trying to get that thing finished up. And part of the finishing up part is getting the final electrical hooked up. And that's what we're up to today. So, just finished up in the office there. Got all my stuff done, shut the computer down because we are cutting the power off. Got the horses fed. They're under the trees there. It's raining a little bit. Water and electricity don't mix too well, but anyways, it'll be pretty good because the power company is going to be here shortly and they're going to pull the meter base. So that means it'll be completely dead, so I'll be okay. Part of the mission is this power panel needs an upgrade. So what I need to do is put a disconnect switch on the back side so that I don't have to schedule the power company to come and pull the meter base when I want to kill all the power. So that's the main goal, is get that disconnect switch and then replace that panel. Reason I could replace the panel is I've got to get 200 amps to the house, and the only way to do that is with a flow-through breaker in my square D panel here. So here's all the parts and pieces I got all ready. I got my disconnect switch. I got my big fancy 200 amp flow-through breaker or lug, and then a new square D panel. Just a little heads up on these panels here. You got two options with square D. You got your home time, then you got your commercial version with the QO. Go with the commercial version. What you're saving, going with that home line version, I don't think it's worth it. Not if you plan on keeping your house for a while. So everything's good to go. I just got to go in and grab some breakfast and wait for the power company. And you saw on previous videos that we got the kitchen done. Finally. It's been a while in the making here. So we got some lights on. So here's what we got for our kitchen. You'll have to go back on some other videos to really see what we got going on in here. So see you after breakfast and when the power company gets here. I've got temporary power set up to the house. That way we got the refrigerator working in there and a few lights, things like that. Power company's not here yet to pull the meter base, but I did shut the main breaker off so I can start operating on this side. Let me just start pulling some of this stuff out of here. That way when the power company gets here, it's going to be a whole lot less to do. So let me just start ripping. Right on time. We got the power company. They're coming in. Looks like they're driving. Oh, they're backing up. They're not quite sure. There we go. We got power company now. We'll get them to pull the base. That worked out great. They pulled the base, but then he's also going to kill the power to the live wires out of the transformer there. That way I got no problem. I can do all the poking around I want in here. So we'll let them do their work, and then I can do my work and get some power back in here. I just wanted to see what's in the box here, so that's something I don't get involved with, but and I don't see any snakes in there either, so we're good to go. He's going to kill the power. That's a whole lot more interesting than I thought it was going to be.
Oh yeah.
I had no idea.
Yes, done what?
Well, we'll let him go. I'll get back. VEC Electric out of Jamestown, Tennessee. Absolutely wonderful to work with. It is just such a pleasure. Well, let me start ripping all this out of here, and we'll start putting her back together. And just like that, the panel's ready to come out. I'm not an electrician, don't claim to be one. This is what I do. But one recommendation is mark the heck out of everything. Between labeling what the wire is and also marking your hots, your neutrals, and your grounds. You just got to make sure that everything goes back together. So let me get this panel out of here, and then I will transfer these holes onto the new panel and get that dropped up here. So I got a few more screws back behind somewhere in here. Well, I'm going to need 2 hands to give this thing a yank here. Got the guts out of it. Not sure what I'm going to do with that. I'm not a big fan of the this particular brand of panel. I'm a square D guy. It's going to need a little more persuasion. Let me get a few more of these fittings loosened up, and then we'll get that panel out of there. Got the old box out. Now I just have to transfer all the holes over to the new box here and get it slid back in place. I need to get this all done before it rains and before it gets dark, so I can get some lights back on in the house. I got a long way to go yet. The new box, got it in there. Everything lined up pretty good. Got all my wires pulled through, all my bushings. Now I've got to put the switch on the back side of the panel mount here. So I've got my wires coming from the meter going back in. I'm going to come out the bottom, go up to the top, and then the top hole is going to feed the new breaker in there. Just a little tip for you. Anytime you get the chance, even though these are outdoor rated panels, if you can, put yourself a roof on top of there, because you want to keep all the water out of there. There's times that I've pulled those covers off after a rain, and the inside of those panels look like a river ran through there. So keep your breakers dry. So let me get some more holes drilled here and see if we can get that switch hooked up so I can call up the power company and let them know to come put my meter back in. I am making progress. Got some wires hanging out here. That's a good thing. And those go back to the disconnect. So this is my power coming in and going back out. Now, anytime that I have to do some work on the inside of that panel, I can come to the back, hit this disconnect, and more and more electricians are requiring a dead panel before they can stick their hand in there. They're not allowed to. So you got 2 choices. Either get a disconnect on there or call the power company every time that you want to open up the cover on your breaker panel. So let me get the cover put on there and we'll work our way around to the front. Well, good morning. Not quite sure where we left off with you, but it's been raining here for 3 days and I have not been able to get back at this electrical panel because water and electricity don't mix. So the next step of the process is I've got to get 200 amps from this flow-through breaker through that pipe here underground over to get into the breaker panel in the house. But the first step is I got to get power through that conduit, or the cables pulled through the conduit. I got to start out by pulling my temporary meter, or my temporary power panel off of here. I put that temporary panel in about 5 years ago, knowing that this day was going to come. Well, it's here. So I'll get that pulled off of here. I will remount that over on the pole over there. But before I can get that mounted, I've got to get those cables pulled through. So I need 200 amps. So I have 3/0 cable copper. I opted for the copper because sometimes it's a little smaller, or it is smaller diameter wire to work with, and sometimes a little easier to work with. So $1,500 later for those 3 spools of wire. Hopefully I got the right length. So I got to get that pulled through there. I got a pile of conduit right there, PVC, that then I got to continue on and get to my breaker panel up in the house with those big cables. It's going to be a day, and I got to sort of doing it by myself. We'll see how that works out here. So the first step is get this panel out of here, pull the temporary wires back, 5 years temporary, and then get some pull line attached to those wires before I can pull it out, and then I can hook onto that wire, pull it through, yada yada yada. Let me get started on this. I'll bring you back once I get everything off of here and I start the pull. A long time coming, but I'm finally pulling the temporary power line out, and I am pulling in the pull cord to try to get those other wires pulled through here. Well, this is going to be a two-handed deal here, so let me get that pulled out of here, get that hooked up, and try pulling those big wires back through. We're ready to make the pull, I think. So what I set up on here is a roller, because then it's going to go down through that hole. I took and cleaned or beveled the inside of that coupler to make everything as smooth as possible. And the key to the whole situation is setting up your harness here with your pull ropes there. So I got a whole lot of half hitches on there and a whole lot of tape, and I staggered the ends of the cable back about a foot. So, well, hopefully that'll help. And then I cut the ends of the cables at a pretty good taper with the portaband, so that they take and they slide over the top of the joints and connections in there. So, well, we'll see how easy this pull's going to be. Reason I'm just a little skeptical is on the pole side, I've got 2-inch conduit, and the reason I have 2-inch over there is because probably about 9 years ago, that 2-inch conduit was set up to feed an RV plug over in the middle of the yard here. Well, that got converted to, well, we're building a house here. So what I did do, and what my go-to is for that heavy, is 2.5-inch. So most of the way, it's a 2.5-inch conduit going. So that's going to be the easy pull. Now, a good rule of thumb is whatever you think you need for conduit size when you're pulling wires, go up one size. I don't care what the books say. I don't care what anybody else says. Go up one size. the cost of having an easy pull compared to a difficult pull, huge difference. And the price of the conduit is pennies at that point. So do yourself a favor, put a bigger conduit in when you're setting up your electrical. So let me get everything lined up, put down the hole. I've got some wire lube that I will take and I will dump on all the way down the wire, really grease her up. And hopefully we'll see this on the other end. Success so far. We got the wire pulled out through that. It went good until I hit that 2-inch conduit. So life lesson for me. Never use 2-inch conduit for service wires. Use 2.5. So let me get my harness unhooked here and start landing wires. So yeah, on that job, that was very high up on the suck scale. Gene did help pull on the other end there while I was pushing on this end. Had to do a little more hooking up on here to have my roller, but then I had to put a guide to get the wires. Rolled off the horses pretty good. So yeah, this has been on my brain for at least 2 years, because 2 years ago when I made those horses, I drilled those extra holes in the sides there, knowing that I'm going to have to pull these wires through there. So everything worked out well. Get that terminated, and let me start terminating this end, and we're going to have power. So let me start hooking wires up. I had to move to some inside stuff, because the outside stuff, it is a rainy mess out there, and we're getting lots of rain. So I just finished landing our big wires that we pulled through. I hooked up the ground that goes all the way through back out to the electrical panel, the main panel. Now I've got to put a couple more breakers in the panel here. We have to go into the crawl space and put an outlet in, so I need a breaker, and we got to put some lights in the crawl space. And I had to add it to the list here, so highly recommend get yourself a board and keep track of whatever you got going on with your electrical. That way it makes better sense in your head, or at least in my head. So let me knock out a couple more knockouts, get this put back together, and we will get in the crawl space. Covers back on. Just a tip for today, not from an electrician, but from a person that has a little experience with this electrical. And 2.5-inch conduit feeding your panel. No 2-inch. It's not worth the headache. It's not worth the hassle. And then also, when you're setting up a breaker panel, always leave the upper right-hand corner of your breaker panel, the 2 spaces, empty. Use them at the very end if you need them, but that gives you the option, if now or 10 years from now you want to put a interlock or a transfer switch in here, this is where it goes, in this spot right here. And I may have this set up here to put a simple little electrical battery backup, something up in there, but always leave that upper right hand space empty. Do not put a breaker. Ask me how I know, because I had to change and move a lot of them around in my life to free that space up. Down to the basement we go. And we got some rainy weather out here. You can't see it on the camera, Most of the horses are in the shelter over there. We got one lone horse out there, Lux. They don't like to let them into their shelter, so put that on my list for the next trip in January. I'm going to be putting another shelter up there. So they all got it. Well, let's get into the basement here without getting the camera wet. Crawlspace. So what we got going on here is, those are the wires that we had just pulled and hooked up the breaker. Now we got to put a couple of outlets, a couple of switches in here, and I made myself a little board out of some leftover material. That's going to go right there, or maybe back yet. I'll figure that out. Outlets. You're going to get my speech again. I am putting a 20 amp circuit in there, so I do have 20 amp receptacles. Even if you were putting a 15 amp circuit in, never use a 15 amp receptacle or a 15 amp toggle switch in a house, period. There's no use for them. I haven't found it anywhere. Maybe somebody's got a use for it, but not me. Anyways, let me get all my 20 amp hardware put up in there, and we'll get our lights turned back on. I'm done in the crawl space for today. I got my mission accomplished. I got a 20 amp receptacle, and I have a 15 amp receptacle with a switch on it for the basement lights, or crawl space lights. So the next step is I got to get some LED lights hooked up in here off of this switch here, and then I have to jump off of this circuit, put 4 more receptacle boxes down here. I made these boxes up with the box, the board, hole for the wire. I'll crawl around, maybe I'll get those put on, but I'm not going to run wires for those. And then the next step is I got to get this thing insulated before I leave. Because believe it or not, it gets cold down in Tennessee. We don't want stuff to freeze. So the next step is, as soon as the rain quits, hook up a ground to the panel out there. And when I ran this line right here all the way through, I did connect into the box. I got my ground, and I have it grounded right there. You can't use a traditional ground rod, at least in this corner of the house here, because there's sandstone 2 feet down below the grass here. So about 5 years ago, I welded a bolt onto this metal frame, of which the metal frame is going down into the ground. So actually I have a 24 by 48 foot ground rod. So I don't know if that's the way it's supposed to be done, but that's the way I'm doing it. You can never overdo your grounds. And leaning up over there is a ground rod that I'll get that put in probably this afternoon. The rain is supposed to let up. And then we're going to close down this electrical project here. So see you in a little bit when it quits raining. So I do get to do some relaxing sitting at the holiday home here. And that's burning cardboard in the fire pit. It's been a full 6 days of rain. The horses are glad that it's done. The sun is coming out a little bit, but now the sun's going down. It's going to get a little bit chilly tonight. So one more piece of the puzzle with the electrical. Let me get over here and show you what we got going on. We've got so the last thing I got to do, take this ground rod. These are 8-footers, and I have to drive this in the ground as far as I can. Then I have to hook up the ground wire, which is going into my disconnect there. And then the very last piece, putting this cover plate back on the box. And here's what I got. It's all done and complete. Remember what I told you about setting up a breaker panel? Leaving the upper right hand breaker slot available to hook up a backup generator? Well, that's what I did with this panel here. So here's my 50 amp breaker going down and through, and it is going through to the receptacle. This is a 50 amp receptacle, and here is the adapter. This will plug into there. This will plug into a 30 amp generator, and I'll be able to reduce that down to put the small generator on there just to get the basics going. But in order to do that, you got to have that available. Now the next step is I have to put an interlock switch in there, and that interlock, which I don't have, prevents this breaker and this breaker from being on at the same time. With that interlock, you've got a couple options. You've got a $10 option and a $40 option. Well, I opted for the $40 option. Well, the biggest reason was, well, it's American made, up in Michigan, just down the road from where my mom's at. So I'll show you that interlock on the next step. But we're going to consider this upgrade of this electrical panel with the RV plug setup, generator plug, and the main shutoff switch. We're going to call that a success. Everything went together pretty well on here. So, well, thanks for sticking around with this wet electrical upgrade. We will see you on the next phase of the project. Not quite sure what that is. Might be something boring like insulating the crawl space. I don't know if you need to see that or not, but talk to you guys later. Thank you for watching Alan's Day. Life is about making choices. Some things are already perfect. Some things you may choose to upgrade. This channel will show you both. Please like, subscribe, and share. Thanks again.